and welcome to another episode of Comics Let's Talk. I'm your host, Kevin Gibbon. I review comic books and have columns on two sites, the Comics for Sinners website and the Comics Crusaders website. Check them out. Check out my reviews and check out my columns. If you like what you read, let me know in the comments section below. If you don't like it, let me know too. Let me know what you liked, what you didn't like. My comic book reviews for Comic Crusaders and Comics for Sinners.
And I'm April Childers.
And this week, we are going to Tampa Bay Comicon. Aren't you excited?
I'm so excited.
This is April's first Comic-Con.
Ever.
She doesn't know what to expect. All the little geeks running around in their cosplays and everything else that's going on. So let's not waste any time. Let's head right over to Comic-Con, Tampa Bay.
Let's go.
Here I am, Tampa Bay Convention Center with Comic-Con. The biggest sea of geeks you will ever see. Well, in Florida anyway. I'm sure San Diego's was bigger. Everybody's taking pictures of dudes in costume. Great fun, buying overpriced pictures of celebrities, etc., etc., etc. All right, Kevin Gibbon, host of the YouTube show Comics Let's Talk. I ran into Max Ortiz.
Coming out for the camera.
Here we go. I gotta back up.
I love it.
Max Ortiz, who is actually one of the cast members of the film Carl Vincent Vampire Hunter. He's going to be playing Yoshi. Today he's at Comic-Con. How are you doing, Max?
I'm doing good. I'm having a good day and watching all the amazing costumes that people are making and seeing some old friends from a couple years back.
Yep.
It was good. Oh, yeah, it was fun.
So, you still doing the Young Robin Hood series?
No, that series is pretty much on chapter 9 and a half. We never really finished it because two of my cast members ended up being cast in Italian productions. So we ended up not finishing the series.
Oh, that's too bad.
9 and a half.
Oh, well.
Instead of 10 chapters, 9 and a half.
So a question I'm asking all the convention goers today. Do you think with the success of the Wonder Woman movie that's going to pave the way for other female-led superhero movies?
Yes, it's about time. Everything is pretty much male-dominated, all the characters from many years ago. And of course, Wonder Woman had her chance in the comics, and then it's like, the movie came out. Yeah, of course, I'm all for it.
Awesome.
I'm waiting for a female Doctor Strange.
That would be interesting. You need a companion, don't you? In case you haven't seen the Max's costume here, we'll pan down here. He's got badass homemade Doctor Strange costume. Oh, okay.
I have all my orders. Hard to make it.
Well, that's awesome. So what have you seen so far here?
Wow. Everything. A lot of collectibles that you say, oh, I used to have that when I was a kid kind of thing. There's new stuff you've never seen before. And, new costumes and characters. Characters, I don't know what they are, who they are. It's real cool. And of course, some of the guest stars that were sitting there in the autograph session, looking at them, we look now, it's like, wow, especially those from a few years back. You look at them, how different they look now.
There's a
upcoming talent.
few interesting stars. Brent Spiner's out there, Lieutenant Data from Star Trek, and the young lady, I can't remember her name now, but she was in Deadpool with Ryan Reynolds.
I can't remember the name either, but yeah, she's here too.
Are you getting your picture with any of them?
I am taking more pictures. Had more pictures taken with me as Dr. Strange and a Jedi.
There you go.
For the last 5 years I've been coming here. I'm dressed up as a Jedi. So I figured this year, now you're kind of here dressed up as Dr. Strange. And I had more pictures taken in a day than I did the whole 3 years.
Really?
Yeah.
That's impressive. It's a great costume, that's why. Yeah, so well, that's all I got. Anything you want to share with my viewers? Anything coming up
acting-wise, TV,
Well,
movie?
acting-wise, keep going. Don't give up. Keep going. Submit, and don't give up. The chance will come about. Even as a background unpaid, you might get upgraded. Like I had my chance a couple times to get upgraded from unpaid to actually lead with dialogue and SAG pay.
Mm-hmm.
So don't give up. Even if it's just background acting.
Have you got anything coming out?
Actually, I'm in a new right now as a teacher. I'm in a TV series for OWN in Clifton, Orlando.
Awesome.
I did a couple episodes of a game show, Deal or No Deal. It's an audience member. And that's the TV series that's coming out. It's called The David Mix Man for the OWN network. It's taping all the way down to December. I'm cast as a teacher. Been there twice already, so just waiting for them to come.
Sounds good. Sounds good. That's Max Ortiz, ladies and gentlemen, one of the cast members from Carl Vincent Vampire Hunter. He's playing Yoshi, and we look forward to filming that scene hopefully soon.
Sounds good.
All right, here I am at Tampa Bay Comicon, giving a quick interview with another comic book creator. This is Caleb Palmquist. How are you doing today, Caleb? Okay, make sure we get close enough. Let's see, the little standee here. If I can get a good kick of it. There we go. Caleb Palmquist, and tell us a little bit about your titles.
All right, my comic is called A Small Favor. It's a epic sci-fi story about a man who can't die, who's been alive since the American Civil War, and the story takes place in the distant future. He's searching the stars, trying to find the answers to why he can't die. Meanwhile, he's having flashbacks to a bunch of different times in his life, and every flashback is drawn by different artists. So there are actually 15 different artists on the book. There's a Civil War story, an Old West story, a story about a secret mission to the moon in the 70s, and they're all part of a big mystery about why he can't die, and how his life went living for 1,000 years.
Awesome. And so it's kind of like an immortal soldier type of thing.
Yeah, very much like that. A little bit Highlander.
So there's like a kind of anthologies with his characters surrounding.
It's an anthology style book, and it's all one cohesive story. All the stories were written by me.
Okay, great.
Yeah. We kickstarted it last year, and we're almost sold out of our first edition. And we're going to bring it back to Kickstarter next year for Volume 2.
Volume 2 next year. Okay, this is Caleb Palmquist, Tampa Bay Comicon, and I'm Kevin Gibbon for Comics Let's Talk. I'm sure I'm going to get a PDF of his comic. I'll give a review on Comic Crusaders or Comics for Sinners websites.
All right, sounds
good. Good to talk to you, Caleb. All right, I'm now here with Jeff Ryder, who is the editor-in-chief of Cloud Wrangler Comics, correct?
Yeah, I'm the editor, the publisher, the writer, the social media manager, the marketing director. It's a little bit all me.
It's all Jeff Ryder. So let's take a look at some of his comics. Which one do you want me to start with? What's your favorite? Or
probably my favorite book, and we just got these in overnight from the printer, is Major Holmes and Captain Watson. It's a period piece story set in the Sherlock Holmes canon and in the historical context of World War I. It's about Sherlock and Mycroft's nephew, who's a detective and a spy, and who works for the British government.
Awesome. And which title would you like to do next?
The most sort of kid-friendly book that we do is Gravity Matters. Just came off Kickstarter last year. It's a story about two genius sisters in the future who solve disasters with science. It's a little bit Fifth Element and a little bit Towering Inferno.
Sounds fun.
Yeah.
And now we got The Demon.
The Demon vs. 10 Angels is a very dark, gritty crime story about the last good cop in a city full of crooked cops who's desperately trying to break up rings of bad guys.
Awesome. And all of these are available online, I assume?
They are. They're all on cloudwranglercomics.com as well as Comixology, if that's your jam. This is our newest book, which is also available there. It's called The Arcane Cocktail Enthusiast. It's about a young woman who owns a cocktail bar in San Francisco, and her new employee just learned her secret that she's actually a sorceress who makes drinks with magic.
Sounds fun. And is this the same character?
Convention exclusive edition, and then the standard edition that went out to the Kickstarter backers just this year in April.
Oh, this is the same story.
It's the same story, two different versions of the same issue number 1. Issue 2 is in production as we speak and should be out in
October. Awesome. And what are these little ones?
The mini stories are just some shorts I've come up with a bunch of artists that I've known over the years. They're part of an upcoming anthology of a lot of my shorts that are all going to be put together. Ben Bid is about werewolves in the Old West by myself and Stan Chow. Blaze of Glory is about space marines coming to difficult realizations about themselves. An artist named Patrick Sinnott from Philadelphia.
I was about to ask you, Sinnott, is that Joe Sinnott?
No, his name's Patrick.
Okay.
He's a good guy. No relation as far as I know. And then Jetpack Guys by myself and an artist who is in Philadelphia and is colored by one of the ladies who worked on Adventure Time. It's about a smuggler in the future who's trying to get icy goods back to his clients in a world that's destroyed by climate change.
Awesome. So I've been talking to Jeff Ryder at Tampa Bay Comicon. Thanks for your time, Jeff, and I wish you best of luck. I shall. They look really good.
Thank you.
Yep. And this is Kevin Gibbon for Comics Let's Talk. All right, back here at Comic-Con, Tampa Bay Comic-Con, I'm with Walter Asli, and he's an independent comic book creator. How are you doing, Walter?
I'm doing great, man.
All right, I'm doing great. Got the YouTube show, Comics Let's Talk. Speaking of comics, here's a couple of Walter's titles. Tell us about this one, Walter.
Alright, so this is Shiver Bureau. I'm the writer and artist of this one. It's basically like Sherlock Holmes and Watson if they were Ghostbusters. So these detectives running around London trying to find these missing orphans. But there's ghosts and monsters, all kinds of craziness in their way.
Is that set in the modern times or is that in the Sherlock Holmes
It's kind
times?
of an alternate time, so it's not really explicit when it takes place. It's somewhat modern,
Okay.
but not quite, because the technology is a little different. Because of the ghosts, things have gotten weird. Yeah.
Awesome. And what about this title? Cubicles?
Cubicles, yeah. So that one's just like super silly. Like it's about two office workers. They get caught up in this crazy adventure and they're trying to get back home, but they suck at everything. So they basically stumble the entire way back home. Space pirates, galactic squids, zombies, aliens, all kinds of craziness.
So it's Dilbert as a superhero.
Yeah. Sometimes I say like Office Space meets Spaceballs. And
Okay.
Ice Pirates, if anyone's ever seen that.
I have seen that. I enjoyed it. It was very B-grade production values, but it was fun.
That's known what Ice Pirates is.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Not too many people
Robert
know.
Urich and no, he's the only name I remember from it.
Yeah, I don't remember who the actors were. I just remember that they were stealing ice.
A lot, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But yeah, I thought that was a lot of fun.
okay, great. He's here at Tampa Bay Comic-Con. I get a pan and a zoom pan around here. Check out all the cosplay, selling his independent title. And I'm going to review his comics on Comic Crusader's website and feature him on the next show of Comics Let's Talk.
Awesome. Thank you, man.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, bye.
All right, I have to get this one on the show. Incredible cosplay. This young lady has this gorilla costume, and she's actually in the cage. This is one of the most awesome cosplays I've ever seen. All right. So where did you get this outfit?
Well, we modified the gorilla outfit and then built the cage.
All right. Excellent. There's the gorilla face, the young lady. One of the most creative cosplays I've seen, I gotta say.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Can I get a picture of you?
Tampa Bay Comic-Con. We got a lot of Star Wars cosplay. Also, we got a Scream cosplay right there. Lots of great stuff here. You're missing out. Those of you who didn't go.
And we're going to look at all of the variations and the use of that too along the way. My name is William Hatfield. I'll be your moderator tonight, and I'd like to have my fellow panelists introduce themselves to you.
David Berger. I am a high school English teacher by day and fantasy author by night. I have a current series out called Task Force Gaia that is will be a 5-book series. The 4th book I'm almost done with. And I just started a Celtic young adult fantasy trilogy called The Quest of Wind Racer and Fire Hunter, and that first book should be done by the end of the week.
I'm Jose Riarte. I've got science fiction and fantasy short stories in many of the major magazines out there, including Lightspeed Magazine, Strange Horizons, Fireside Fiction, and a bunch of others. And the other half of that was it, right? All right.
Hi, I'm Elle Iyer. I'm a middle school writing teacher sometimes and a novelist of LGBT science fiction romance at other times. I do have a novel out called Vicious Circle.
As I said, my name is William Hatfield. I usually go by Bill, except when writing or being harassed by the IRS or yelled at by my mother. I write action adventure science fiction and LGBTQ fiction based in Key West with a lot of humor and a little bit of murder and mayhem for flavor. Out of curiosity, we had a panel at 10:30 this morning. How many of you were here for that? Yeah, the rest of you, 3 demerits. No, just kidding. No, we don't want to be repetitious. I was going to actually ask that before we introduced ourselves, but we all did it pretty good. Well, except for me. What I'd like to not spend a lot of time on today are the typical obvious choices for strong female characters like Black Widow, Red Sonja, if you're a Conan fan. As much as I love them, Sarah Connors and Ripley, those have been pretty overdone today. We will talk about them if the need comes up, but we're going to try and find other sorts of strong women, and we're going to tell you some of what we do, and then we'd like to hear some of what you'd like to see and things that you've seen that we have not thought of and mentioned yet, but we'll get to that shortly. So who wants to tell me about their strong female writers?
I got the lucky spot next to Bill. What was the question again?
Recite some media letter B. Women characters. Do you have strong women characters?
Oh, absolutely. I grew up on comic books, and my favorite hero is Wonder Woman, and has been since I was 8 years old. I even cosplay in a gender-bent costume of that. My entire home office is a shrine to that character. She has inspired a lot of my writing. That in Greek mythology, which is where this series came from. So in my first series, I have 2 women characters. There's a team of 4. 2 of them are female, and they just kind of came up because they had to be female. They were strong characters in their own right, and I decided early on, and not consciously, I think it just kind of happened. One's a black woman and one's a little redhead, but their personalities kind of emerged from the initial writing stages, and I felt like I needed strong female characters because I had a strong mother figure, I had comic book ties, and I didn't want my books to devolve into the stereotypical male hero saves the day kind of books. Not that those are necessarily bad stories, but I think women in stories are underrated. There need to be more strong female characters in fiction, and especially in books and movies. And so in my books, I tend to focus on having some characters that are strong but not stereotypically superheroic as much as they are just strong personalities. They can hold their own. They don't need a man to support them. They don't need to be rescued. They need to just stand on their own and have traditional, feelings of just being a good person and doing the right thing.
Yeah, I have no choice but to come at this a little bit sideways, because while a majority of my protagonists are either women or girls, I don't really write action adventure type stories. I write more dramatic type stories, so I don't really have warriors in that sense. But
when I this is warriors, that was just the general order. I'm really looking for the non-warriors.
Well, that's
where I'm going.
Because there was a quote going around a few years ago, and I was desperately trying to Google it up before the panel to remember who said it, and I couldn't. It was definitely not original with me, but a lot of times when we talk about strong female characters, the perception seems to be that we're talking about Sarah Connor or River Tam. But maybe we can parse that phrase a little bit differently. It's not characters who are strong females, it's strong characters who are females. So it's really about the characterization, the agency, and
So I do write the ones with swords and the ones with lasers and all of that. I grew up on Xena Warrior Princess. My first book was marketed as Xena Warrior Princess in Space, where the subtext is the main text. That said, one of the things that I really loved about that particular series and what I love to do with my own characters is it's the character with the hidden strength that I think is more interesting sometimes. I mean, I think Xena is fantastic. Obviously, I adore her, but it's kind of Gabrielle who keeps her going, and you don't see that coming initially, but you do figure it out by the end. And then actually every one of my books is a female-female pairing. The one who's the protagonist is the kick-ass woman, but the one who's really keeping her from losing her mind and making sure that she makes it through is the supporting character and has more strength perhaps than the one you expect to have.
Well, you guys gave me ideas to get me off my plan, but I like, I mentioned this in my earlier panel today, our earlier panel today. I write series because I love characters and I want to see them grow, and all my characters change. I don't have a static character. I don't think anybody I've written. But I love to see where they finally hit the strength. So really, River Tam, I put that on. I'm somewhat of a fan of Firefly and Serenity, somewhat, and I think in their own way, every woman in that series was a very strong woman. And River Tam, who seems at the end of the movie, of course, to be the super duper hero. Most of the movie and most of the series, she's just this little girl who's kind of lost and out of place and showing tidbits of this and that and talents and everything, but you don't get the slightest clue that she's a killing machine or whatever they get her into at the end of that. And I like that development change. I like having a character on my Key West series. I have two young ladies, the two main protagonists. One of them is much more brash, Tuesday. She's the one who motor mouth, whatever she thinks she says. But she's also the one who, she's working out because of things that happened earlier in her life. She's never going to be a victim again. So she's always working out, and as her sparring partner likes to say, yeah, she really makes my hands sore against her face all the time. Because, it's a learning process. You don't become martial artist overnight. And she's like 5'2" or something. But her partner, who was much more meek-mild, went into teaching, oddly enough, and never got a job teaching because of the Florida educational system's peculiarities these days. So anyway, they move off to Key West, and she's kind of a timid exit. She did ballet all her life, and she's just very graceful and not real forthwith with comments. But over the course of the first three books, and into the fourth book, you see quite a bit of change there, because I love the growing, strong character. I mean, we all have the hero inside of us, but it might take a while for it to come out, and that's what I love. I love the fact that there's old people in your stories, and a lot of people, and I have been guilty of this most of my life until I started becoming an old person. They all have a past, so they may be grandma, but she also may have been a SEAL, or maybe not a SEAL, but you get my drift here. And so older characters may have hidden talents that, as the need shows up in the storyline, this old wacky lady suddenly is, you're that? Oh my God. And in some ways they don't find out right away because they're pretty good at disguising what they might have been in the past. And I like that kind of, every era or every time range, there are pasts and futures behind you that can provide a lot of characters. That's kind of redundant. That's about our writers. Can we do a little bit of a synopsis or a gathering of female characters that we admire that are maybe not the traditional warriors, but we think, hey, this is a strong character, they developed her well, and this is why. What she was. Do you guys have any off the top of your head that jump out at you by other authors? I mean, I don't want to do just cinema because that's a little past 8, you don't go to movies, you don't need us to play about that. But have you ever read, how many people in here are romance readers? Nora,
Robert.
yeah, J.D. Robb. Yeah, that she writes as J.D. Robb for a futuristic science fiction series. Oh, with Eve Dallas. I mean, I love strong female characters, and Eve Dallas is fun. She's got a good reason why she's the way she is, a backstory, so to speak. And I've read about 8 or 10 of those, and I don't read romance. I don't read romantic romance, but I do read the Eve Dallas books. Do you guys have any that you like?
I have female authors that I think are fantastic. They write wonderful characters. My favorites are Elizabeth Moon, Tanya Hub, and also a non-female author, but J.A. Pitts writes a really great LGBT urban fantasy series with a reluctant female main character. I mean, a reluctant hero female main character. She's a blacksmith. And just how she grows into her role as a monster fighting warrior over time, but she doesn't want any of it. I love that kind of character. I like to write them as well. But the ones that don't want to do it are the ones who love the most when they finally choose to do so.
I would mention Elizabeth Bear and her novels. I actually haven't read the Jenny Casey series, which would be the most on topic, but just the ones that I have read, the Dust trilogy, or the most recent book of hers that I've read was Caring Memory, and that's a little bit more of an action type hero, but what's interesting to me about Caring Memory is that she doesn't perceive herself that way. She doesn't really go around talking tough. It's just that when bad things happen and somebody's got to step up and do something, she's always the one who happens to step up and do whatever he's doing. I appreciate that. I would also throw out Kindred by Octavia Butler, the protagonist in that. And I'm struggling because I'm so bad with names for the most part. So the protagonist of that book ends up going back in time to the time of slavery and having to kind of experience that world and challenge some of her conceptions of who she would have been at that time. And just kind of, I like that that character who's able to grow emotionally and able to try to take charge of things.
All of the geeks in cosplay are leaving. It looks like Halloween, but it's not. We're in August. Tampa Bay Convention Center, and some more colorful cosplay characters now leaving the Tampa Convention Center, and I'm losing my comics here, so my camera work is a little shaky, but here they are. Tampa Convention Center, Tampa Bay Comicon, some wonderful people, geeks all. See a Star Wars shirt, Pink Floyd, yes, Supergirl, Batgirl, another Superman. And there's Peter Griffin, now leaving the convention center. Now I'm going to wait until Peter Griffin comes by because he looks cool as hell. Try to zoom this so my hand is shaking. There we go. There we go. Peter Griffin. He's now behind the pole. Darn it. There he is. Uh-oh. He just took off his head. They beheaded Peter Griffin. Oh no, he's a guy with a goatee. There we go. Peter Griffin's back. He could be my twin, I'll tell you what. Here we go. More interesting cosplay. Leaving Tampa. I also have my own franchise now. It's Carl Vincent, Vampire Hunter. The first novel was Last Rites, The Return of Sebastian Vasilis. It has been adapted into comic book format and can be found on Indie Planet along with all the other Carl Vincent Vampire Hunter comic books. It's also being made into a movie out of Lakeland, Florida through Crisp Filmworks. Check out the Facebook page, Carl Vincent Vampire Hunter. Also, Last Rites, The Return of Sebastian Vasilis. If you like what you see and want to stay up to date, just click like on both pages. There are many other comic books available on Indie Planet and Drive-Thru Comic Books of the Carl Vincent Vampire Hunter franchise. The latest comic book is Dracula Rising. We're on issue 2. Issue 1 was drawn by Dennis Magnet, who since had to move on to other projects. So my new artist is Rodolfo Ezequiel. Going to show you some panels from his artwork right now. All right, we were at Tampa Bay Comicon, April's first Comic-Con. Did you have fun today, April?
I had a blast. I had
Awesome.
so much fun.
All the people in their cosplay, all the stars and celebrities that were there. We had a great time. And we're going to try to do some more Comic-Cons, maybe in other states, if we can afford to travel. Until next week, my name is Kevin Given.
And I'm April Childers.
And together we say,
Keep reading those comics!